Welcome to Sandler Account Software's Accounts Payable Electronic Funds Transfer demo video. AP EFT is one of the 4 modules of the eBanking suite for Solomon. The other 3 modules include AR EFT, Positive Pay, and Lockbox Processing. Since 1996, Sandler Account Software has been building application products exclusively for Microsoft Solomon. The Solomon's Payroll Direct Deposit and work order modules were created by Sandler Account Software and sold to Solomon and now are part of the core offerings. In addition, Sandler Account has Project Series and Manufacturing Series add-on products for Solomon. Let's take a look at an overview of Accounts Payable EFT. What is it? Simplistically, it's electronically moving funds from one account to another. That can be from accounts within your company, or in AP EFT from funds from one account in your company to accounts in your vendors or employees' accounts, banks. This process is facilitated by the National Automated Clearinghouse. This is a national association of banks that has set up a standard. This standard is referred as the ACH standard, and the organization is also called NACHA. EFTs are guaranteed to clear within 48 hours. This is the designation of an ACH EFT. This distinguishes itself from a wire transfer, which is guaranteed to clear within 6 hours, and wire transfers are managed by the Federal Reserve System. This product is targeted towards the ACH EFT market and not necessarily towards the wire transfer market. We use what's called the ACH credit method. And what that means is that we initiate the transfer of funds and we then will credit your vendor's account. So it's not that your vendor is coming and getting in money out of your account. Your company is initiating the transfer and crediting your vendor's account. There are many uses for the product. Employee expense reimbursement is a very common one. If you have employees that are on the road, to get their funds electronically deposited in their account is quite a nice benefit. In addition, vendor trade payments are done through the product, and grants likewise are done. We have one of our largest and oldest customers, the American Heart Association, pays millions of dollars of their grants for heart disease research through our AP EFT product. Also, the product supports federal and state tax payments, whether the federal 940, 941 or other tax payments, or any special state tax payments. The software can accommodate any of those. So the software has a full range of applications, both for small companies that want to do maybe employee expense reimbursements, right through to some of the largest companies that the Solomon software is used on. Let's take a look at some of the features of our particular implementation of AP EFT. Again, as I mentioned, the product used the NACHA standard, which is absolutely standard in the U.S., the ACH standard, and therefore we guarantee that if your bank is in the U.S. that we can support it. In addition, the product has a flexible file format feature, which allows it to be easily customized to send files to any country in the world. Out of the box, there are 3 Canadian formats that the product supports, and others can be very easily added. In addition, the product has a remittance advice feature that after an EFT is transmitted to a vendor, optionally then a remittance advice showing the detail that normally would be found on the Solomon check stub can be sent in the form of an email to that vendor. The product fully supports Solomon multi-company, whether it's in a single database or multiple databases, and multi-account. So that even if you have one company, if you have different checking accounts with different requirements, the EFT product works very nicely with any of those. The product comes with complete built-in serial communication software if modem or dial-up support is needed to transfer the file to your bank. Historically, that's how most banks have received files. More and more today, the web is being used through a browser to transmit files. The software has that fully incorporated and very seamlessly integrated. If your bank requires proprietary software to be installed on your system and used, again, any of those communications options have been accounted for, and it's very seamless. You just create the file, click a button, and the communications takes place. The product is seamlessly integrated with the Solomon financials. It's written with the VB tools, and so therefore it looks and feels exactly like all of your other Solomon applications. The product supports pre-notification. Pre-notification is that process whereby you send in advance to an EFT the banking information into the network to verify that the information is accurate. The product has built-in features to automate that process and makes it an effortless procedure. And finally, the product fully supports archiving of the EFT files after they've been created. You can optionally archive them for historical purposes or for whatever other reason you might need. Let's go and take a look at the AP EFT demo. We're going to outline those items that we're going to review. First, we'll take a look at vendor banking entry. That's the application where we actually identify those vendors that we want to send EFTs to, and we identify then their banking information, their transit routing and account number. The next part of the process is to use a payment selection filter. The only difference between using AP today and AP after you install AP EFT is that you will break your payment selection batch into two batches. In other words, if you have so many vouchers that you're sending out for payment on a particular day, normally you would select those vouchers and then print checks against that batch. You'll now create two batches, one that will include your computer checks and another batch that will have only your EFTs. And this payment selection filter application of our product facilitates that process by dividing that payment selection batch into an EFT batch and a computer check batch. Once you've done that filtering, you take the EFT batch and you run it through the Solomon AP check printing process, just as you normally would with checks, but of course you don't print it on check stock. You print it either on plain paper or you can print it to a file. But then you keep it just as you would as a check batch. From Solomon's standpoint, then those vouchers have been effectively paid, and we'll see in a minute how we do it through EFT. This next step is to take that check batch that has only EFT vendors in it, and we run the create and send process. And what that does is creates the file, writes an audit report, does error checking, and then creates the actual notcha formatted file, automates the communications process, and transmits the file to your bank. Once the file has been transmitted to your bank, then at the end of that process you keep that process, and at that time, if you decided to use the email feature, emails are then set off to those vendors indicating to them that their payment has been paid electronically. Their vouchers have been paid electronically. Now we'll go into the demo portion of the video. For AP EFT, let's first take a look at vendor banking entry. AP EFT is part of the eBanking suite, so we go to the eBanking suite for Solomon menu, and then we'll first take a look at the vendor banking entry screen. This is the screen where you take your existing Solomon vendors and add banking information to them. This is a list of all your Solomon vendors, and we can see that the ones that have either a status and a pre-note status are those that have been designated as EFT vendors. Any number of your vendors can be set up as EFT, one or all, any place in between. If we select Kim Abercrombie, we can see that we've entered some information about how the record's going to be formatted in the EFT file. Then her bank transit number, this is the ABA banking number, and then her account number where the monies will be deposited into. Also on this screen is where we enter any email notification information. If this person is to get an email notification, and then if that's the case, what are the setup options? We can pull from the vendor maintenance screen if we're entering our email addresses there, so we can just check that and that would pull. In this case, Kim doesn't have an email set up there, so we can add up to 2 additional addresses, names and addresses, and for our demonstration I'm going to be sending this email to myself at Hotmail, and depending on Hotmail's response today, we'll see take a look at what an email looks like after we transmit an EFT. So this is customer vendor banking entry. The next step in sending an EFT batch is to the first thing you do is do Solomon's payment selection. And we've already done that. I've already done a payment selection. I'm going to go into Edit Documents for Payment and pull up that batch that I've already had. This would be normally what you would have done when you're doing a Solomon check run. You do payment selection, and what we have is a list of vendors and vouchers that we're going to pay. And this batch, as most of your batches, will have a mixture of EFT vendors. This person we were just at is Kim. And then we'll have some other vendors that are not EFT vendors. And as we mentioned in the slides, what we need to do is split this into two batches, one for EFT vendors and one for check batches. So what we do is we use the eBanking